The Amazon has long been a place where secrets are guarded, hidden under a canopy of pouring green and a symphony of life that cannot be seen. The idea was that it would be the final big wilderness, a green hell that would prevent vast, sophisticated ancient cultures from rising to power. On the other hand, it was discovered that the rainforest was not a pristine wilderness. The stone was a gravestone, not a magnificent structure or a monument that had been sculpted, but rather an abnormality was the first hint. When Dr. Alara Vance, a geoarchaeologist, was mapping the forest floor with LiDAR, she spotted a sequence of geometric patterns. These patterns were not the usual circles that are associated with recognized Amazonian towns. Rather, they were something that was far more expansive and foreign. It was a huge network of foundations that were arranged in a hexagonal pattern, extending outward from a central point, like a stone spider. These foundations were buried under generations of silt and roots. The subsequent voyage was a journey into a different universe from the one that arrived. The crew had to cut through a layer of terra, which is the wonderfully fertile black earth that scientists have been observing for a long time. They were not only fighting against the elements, but they were also facing an increasing sensation of amazement. There, however, it was not only dirt. Rather, it was a layer that was several meters deep. A man-made landscape on a scale that was beyond anyone's ability to imagine. After a long time, their brushes finally unearthed fused stone rather than worked stone. These constructions were not constructed one block at a time. Rather, they were grown. A material that the crew referred to as haeopolymerite was used to construct the foundations. This material was a substance that resembled concrete and was forged from local silica and organic polymers. It was baked at low temperatures for what seemed to be a lost chemical process. It was not by resisting the passage of time that it had successfully endured the eon. Rather, it had become one with the soil itself. A shock wave was produced across the laboratory as a result of the carbon dating of organic material that was trapped inside the matrix. The findings were not just outdated, they were also considered heretical. For 12,800 years, it is 7 millennia older than the Giza Plateau, which is an astounding difference. Greater in age than Stonehenge. During the time, while a significant portion of the planet was still struggling to emerge from the Ice Age, this civilization blossomed and prospered. Lumina was the name they gave to this society, which they named after their most perplexing finding. There was neither king's tomb or a treasure trove of riches in the center room, as they discovered. In its place, they discovered a large heartstone in the center of the site. It was a monolith that resembled obsidian, but was neither obsidian nor basalt. It had a chilly sensation to the touch, and when the sun from the equatorial region struck the shaft that had been dug at a certain angle, the whole construction started to hum. However, it was a low-frequency resonance that appeared to soothe the jungle that was all about them. It was not a sound that you heard with your ears, but rather one that you felt in your bones. At the same time as it was aesthetically pleasing, the building showed a brilliance that was terrifyingly practical. The hexagonal foundations served as a vast water catchment and filtering system, which is the explanation for the terra preta characteristics. Each and every part of the city was a single living engine that was intended to function in harmony with the surrounding rainforest. They were not able to subdue nature. Rather, they were able to control it. However, their genuine legacy was etched on the walls of the building. There were no royal rulers sitting on thrones, nor were there any portrayals of battle. The inscriptions detailed the narrative of a people who had charted the stars with an astounding precision and whose calendar was not based on the sun or the moon, but rather on the long cycle precession of the On a planetary scale, they were considered to be timekeepers. Their demise, on the other hand, is the most unsettling aspect of the narrative. It is not an invasion or an epidemic that is mentioned in the last inscriptions. Rather, it is a period of time known as the Great Silence, during which the song of the earth became less frequent. Core samples taken from the location are consistent with a catastrophic event that occurred on a worldwide scale. The Younger Dryas era, which occurred around 12,800 years ago, and caused an abrupt and drastic return to glacial conditions. Despite all of their knowledge, the Lumina were most likely brought down by a sudden change in climate, which may have been caused by an impact from a comet. This change transformed their artificial paradise into a jungle that was ruled by starvation and strangulation. Not only does the finding of the Lumina offer a new chapter to history, but it also tears the textbook into by a significant amount. It gives the impression that the development of civilization was not a straight trend from the Middle East outward, but rather a phenomena that occurred all over the world in a sporadic manner. That a culture had reached the peak of bioharmonious technology deep inside the Amazon, and that they had fallen not by sword, but by starfire and ice, is something that we are just now starting to fathom. We, who are so proud of our own civilization, with our towers of steel and streams of data, are we listening for the song of the earth? Their whispering stones now ask us a single question that fills us with a sense of dread. And would we even be able to tell if it started to fade away? Weeks extended into months at the location, which was subsequently given the name Heart of Green. Following the initial shock that was caused by the finding, a methodical and almost reverent procedure of decoding was carried out. Despite the fact that Dr. Vance's team was now brimming with the most prominent specialists in the fields of archaeoacoustics, paleobotany, and quantum materials, they continued to operate under a constant cloud of doubt. The subsequent step was taken by Dr. Eris Thorne, a neurobiologist who had been brought in as a wildcard consultant. He was the one who made the jump. He made the observation that the low-frequency hum that was emanating from the central heart stone did not only reverberate through stone, rather, it echoed everywhere in life. The effectiveness of photosynthesis in plants that were located in close proximity to the activated monolith was found to be increased by a factor of 300%. The fungal networks that are found in the soil, which are the natural internet of the planet, were very active and sent messages at an unimaginably rapid rate. "The city is not just a place where people lived," Thorne said, his voice shaking with a scary wonder. "The city is actually a place where people live. A cognitive engine is what it is. In no way did the Lumina construct a city, they developed a mental capacity. In addition, the rainforest is the only remnant of its consciousness." They came to the realization that the hexagonal foundations were more than simply water conduits. It was a network of brain circuits. This biological resonance was perfectly conducted by the geopolymerite, which was a perfect conductor. A basic energy that the team came to refer to as the vita-frequency, the gentle hum of living things themselves, was intended to be harvested, amplified, and distributed throughout the whole building. The people of the Lumina had not only coexisted peacefully with the jungle, rather, they had tapped into the forest's fundamental life energy, used it to power their civilization, which allowed them to think and communicate. It was a chamber concealed under the Heartstone that led to the most important discovery that has been made up to this point. Instead of being a room filled with recordings, it was a garden that is completely devoid of any vegetation and has been kept in complete darkness for millennia. A single, enormous, bioluminescent fungus grew inside of it, and its mycelial roots were intricately and purposefully entwined with the geopolymerite in a design that was both complicated and intentional. They were the last, most desperate symbols of the Lumina, and they were etched around the base of the fungus colony. In order to cross-reference them with the celestial charts, Dr. Lin, who was the team's linguist, passed away many restless nights. At the time that it was released, the translation was not a history. It was a strong warning. Is a recipe as well as a countdown. The Great Silence was not described as an exterior occurrence by the inscriptions. Rather, it was described as an inward event. Within the planet itself, the vito-frequency had been severely damaged as a result of the cosmic impact that was responsible for the younger Dryas. Song of the Earth was going away, and along with it, the awareness and might of the Lumina were also melting away. They had not attempted to rescue themselves, but rather to conserve their knowledge in a last-ditch effort to preserve what they had already accomplished. The gigantic fungus, which was a library that had been genetically modified, served as the vessel. Its own DNA served as the medium for storing data, and it was inscribed with the totality of luminous knowledge, including their comprehension of ecology, star cycles, and the very nature of consciousness itself. Not to an end, but rather to a possible new beginning. The countdown was about to begin. It was a celestial timepiece that indicated the next planetary alignment that would occur when the Vita frequency would be powerful enough to awaken the library. This particular alignment takes place just once every 12,800 years. Everyone on the team looked at their calendars. In a little under 3 months, the next alignment will take place. Now, the archaeological excavation that was formerly a peaceful activity has become the focal point of a worldwide race. Governments are looking at a potential alternative to fossil fuels as a source of energy. Corporations see the patent as the pinnacle of biotechnology. There is a weapon that the military believes has the potential to influence the fundamental fabric of an environment. In addition to their role as explorers, Dr. Vance and her team also play the role of guardians. They are caught between the awe and wonder of their discovery and the dreadful responsibility that comes along with it. A civilization that attained transcendence by achieving one with nature and then died when that connection was disrupted is the one that they stand in the shadow of. It is no longer sufficient for the Amazonian stones to just pose a hypothetical inquiry. They provide the option to choose. For the sake of gaining power, should we continue to replicate the harmful patterns that have been established? Instead, do we understand the fundamental lesson that the Lumina has to teach us, which is that the ultimate technology is not dominance but rather symbiosis? With each passing day, the Heartstone is starting to hum at a higher volume. Even though it is dark, the fungus is starting to light a little bit brighter each time. The whole world is holding its breath as it waits to see whether or not we are able to possess the wisdom to listen to the symphony, or whether or not we are destined to be the cause of the next great silence.